Kanye West scares off live streamer Cenat due to his recent list of Jewish tweets, and Elon Musk decided to state that Jews are white when responding to someone calling him a white supremacist. But first, let me start off with the Kanye West portion of this video. So Kanye, he's been on his recent tirade list of tweets saying how he loves Hitler and highlighting more things about Jews, which, funny enough, I previously did a video where he was talking about freeing Puffy and saying that white people are trying to use Puff to scare Negroes. But now he's back on his whole uh, being critical of Jewish kick. And that's why, ultimately, when it comes to Kanye West, I just see him as an opportunist when it comes to this sort of thing, especially as the mainstream media continues to die and alternative media is thriving more and more. It's become sort of safer and safer to go against the narrative of the mainstream media. And so I don't really see him as an ally to conservatives in the culture wars, some seem to think. I mean, ultimately, he was still a part of this beast known as Hollywood, where, he was spewing the same diatribe that they've spewed. But now, since he's been kind of kicked out of that nest, he's saying what people have been saying in alternative media for decades. And Kai Cenat, his response, well, it's no surprise because, as you know, there are a number of Jewish individuals and groups that pretty much run a large percentage of mainstream media, government, and activist groups. And so, of course, when Kai sees these recent tweets, he backs off of an interview that I guess he was planning to do when he met Kanye at the Grammys. In fact, when you look up who Kai Cenat is under as far as his representation, United Talent Agency, of course, the CEO is a Jewish guy. And again, what Kanye West has stated has been stated by others for decades. So he's not really saying anything bold. In fact, I find most of the rappers who promote death and various other crimes, they're still far worse than Kanye, because we're talking about rappers who regularly get killed, because a lot of dead rappers happen every single year. And then you have the rappers who steer others to kill people. And so ultimately, that will always be far worse than someone saying, I love Hitler on Twitter, because you're talking about words or comments posted on social media versus words through song actually causing death and destruction. But those people are never seen as controversial. In fact, they still have record deals in many of those cases. And basically, even though he hasn't been removed from Twitter quite yet, he has a limited visibility. And to me, it's just another example of pure hypocrisy, because you can find endless tweets hating white people, hating men, hating heterosexuals, hating Christians. It's just an endless list. Death threats being made, against the sitting president. And those things don't even violate X's rules against hateful conduct. But then when you start bringing up Jews, the alphabet sex call, and the recent controversy with H-1B visa, which Elon has been able to bury due to his Doge work, but now him calling Jews white, that probably is going to light a fire back under the behinds of people that were calling out Elon Musk. But again, I'll get to that later on in this video. But yeah, the pure hypocrisy is in the fact that you clearly can't talk about certain groups of people, even when you're telling the truth, especially if you're telling the truth. That's when they will make sure they label it as hateful. But you can make up lies endlessly about whites, heterosexuals, Christians, and even the sitting president and his appointees, make death threats against them and not catch the same heat that you would catch just over speaking truths about certain Jewish folks or Jews in general and their influence. But it also again shows you that even your most loudmouth pro blackity black will always consistently fold under the pressure to when it's time to call out people, they'll always resort to, of course, blame Whitey, but they have nothing to say about Jewish folks. The Tariq Nasheed, who's always alleging or accusing people of white supremacy, he'll always make it a point to not distinguish between whites and Jews. Because, again, that's the safe card to play. Because if you specifically highlight Jewish people, then that's when you actually get pressure. And that's why you see these pro blacks with their blatant vitriolic hate against whites. That's why you see them still have platforms. And it's not a coincidence that a lot of those anti-white movements or individuals usually have a liberal Jewish person playing their puppet master, enabling them to say all of that hateful nonsense. And Negroes in general who aren't even famous or rich and have much to lose, they sort of instinctually know not to say anything negative about Jews. But they'll pretty much be hateful towards just about every other racial group, especially, again, so called white people. Which brings me now to Elon Musk categorizing Jews as white. He was responding to a tweet from Bill Crystal, who, again, is a person that has presented himself, I believe, as like a conservative or Republican voice. Sure, in name only. And basically, he was calling out Musk, saying that Musk was trying to bring back white supremacists. And Elon Musk, in response to that, said, well, clearly white supremacy isn't real because Crystal is white, even though he's not. He's Jewish. And then in a later tweet, and someone replied to that saying, you know, hey, Elon, Crystal is Jewish, not white. And then Elon responded with, this idea that Jewish people are not white is ridiculous. Someone like Crystal is peak white. If anything, that dude barely has any melatonin. Obviously, he meant melanin, and maybe he just put melatonin to try to make a cheeky joke. But the fact is, Jews aren't white, and they make it a point to ensure that they're not classified as that, but also they will simultaneously camouflage white so whites can ultimately get the blame for things, like the majority blame for slavery in America when over 70% of slave owners here were Jewish, not so called white. And again, it's this sort of thing when Elon Musk posts these tweets that remind you, yes, majority of his life, the overwhelming majority of his life, in fact, all the way up until like a year and a half ago, he was a libtard. And so he's still he still has his trial and error before he realizes truly what side he's on, particularly if he claims to be against woke mind virus, as he calls it, then he's going to have to realize more and more clearly who people are and where they are and what their true motivations is. Because again, when you're talking about Jewish folks, they're the main ones that enable Negroes and other POCs, as they like to say. They're the main ones that enable the carnage and destruction, pushing the open border policies to invade the Western world, while non Western countries are not only allowed but championed to have strong border policies. And so it is important to distinguish between who's Jewish and who's not. And camouflaging them as white, again, it's the safe play. Again, it's the safe play that pro blacks use to present themselves as not being cowards when they don't make it a point to highlight who's actually responsible for all the nonsense that they claim to be against. But then, ultimately you have to realize, just like with Negroes, there's still a lot of woke, libtarded white folks who are white, not Jewish. It's a lot of their fault for the reason why the Western world and Western civilization is in the spot that it's in. Again, this need to play savior for people, human rights, even for people that means you harm. That is a so-called white person's instinct, nature, and it's that nature that has, led to POCs and libtarded Jews to, have them under attack. But anyway, I just thought I'd speak on this particular situation, especially again when people are trying to make what Kanye is saying like it's such a big deal versus the rappers that are actually participating in despicable crimes. And I'm not just talking about P. Diddy. I'm talking about the Lil Durks, uh, the countless other gangster rappers before Kanye's time, the gangster rappers since Kanye West's time, the drill rappers who, again, participate and advertise real violent crimes on the streets, not just making posts that people don't like. I don't know. I'm just going to go on a limb and say that's far more threatening than a post from Kanye.